The Cuyahoga County Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, November 14th is now called to order. Andrea, would you please call the roll?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 2:40 p.m. As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Turner, Ms. Conwell, Ms. Stevens is absent, Ms. Simon is absent, Mr. Kelly,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Sweeney,
Present.
Mr. Tuma,
Here.
Mr. Gallagher, Mr. Schran,
Here.
Council President Jones.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Andrea. Has anyone signed in for public comment?
Yes, Zach Schiller.
There's a little button that you press and a green light will come on. Press it and then just state your name again. Base of the mic. Yeah, right at the.
It's on the base of the microphone. Is it green?
Says push there.
Oh, there we go. Okay, excuse me, sorry about that. President Jones and the members of the council, thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. Schiller, if you could state your name for the record, please.
Yeah, I was just about to say, my name is Zach Schiller. I'm Research Director of Policy Matters Ohio, a nonprofit research institute with the mission of creating a more vibrant, equitable, sustainable, and inclusive Ohio. I would like to talk briefly about the possibility of tax increment financing in connection with a proposed development project in and around downtown Cleveland. News reports and a presentation to a committee of Cleveland City Council have indicated that the Bedrock Development Project will include the use of a TIF covering much of downtown Cleveland and the near west side. Under a TIF, owners continue to pay the property tax that was due on the property prior to the new development, but do not pay increased taxes they normally would on the value above that amount. Instead, they make payments that in lieu of taxes that can be used to pay for public infrastructure and certain other purposes. TIFs can be a tool to help support development. The grantor of this form of tax abatement must evaluate whether or not they're necessary for the development to take place and if the cost is worth it. We certainly hope that the City of Cleveland will closely evaluate that. Given the city's many needs, providing significant financial support for already wealthy interests should be viewed with skepticism. My major concern today involves the portion of this TIF called an overlay TIF that would cover areas of downtown and elsewhere that are not a part of these developments. The county and other taxing entities have a clear interest in this. If a TIF is set up covering such areas of downtown or the near west side, the county would not receive all of the additional revenue it otherwise would get under its property tax levies. This would mean less money available for all of the important services that the county provides. I would urge the council to investigate what the likely losses would be. There are a number of different kinds of TIFs governed by different rules. However, under state law, and you can see Ohio Revised Code section 5709.40E, counties have the opportunity to object to what are known as incentive district TIFs that last more than 10 years or where the percentage of the exemption is more than 75%. When they do, the city must negotiate over it. And if there's no agreement after such negotiations, the county would receive half of the additional tax revenue that it otherwise would have gotten in the 11th year above the 75% amount or both. Franklin County, where such TIFs are more common, has made use of this authority. I don't know if this alternative will be available for this proposed TIF. The Cleveland Metropolitan School District apparently will be held harmless under the TIF so that it would not suffer any reduction in revenue that it might otherwise receive, although it could negotiate the terms. That is commendable. However, it raises the question, are the services provided to the children, adults, and elderly by the county not also worth protecting? Whether or not the county has a specific opportunity under the law to object and negotiate, you can certainly weigh in and try and make sure that county resources are not reduced by this or other forms of tax abatement. We urge that you learn more about what the consequences of the proposed TIF might be and take action as needed to protect the county. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
That concludes the public comment portion for today's meeting.
All right. Items referred to committee. Madam Clerk.
Resolution 2023-0293, declaring the necessity of submitting to the electors of Cuyahoga County the question of a renewal of a 4.8 mil tax levy for the purpose of supplementing general fund appropriations for health and human social services for 8 years outside the 10 million limitation, in accordance with Section 5705.191 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Is there someone from the administration who would like to speak to this matter?
Thank you, Council President, members of council. Chris Renane, Cuyahoga County Executive. It's good to see you. I wanted to just open, and thanks for the opportunity to do so, the matter of the HHS levy. And I just want to say outset, appreciate all of your work and support for all of our health and human services work at Cuyahoga County. I know just by now working with you for 11 months how much you care. And I want to say thanks to Council Committee Chair Yvonne Conwell for the work you do as a committee. I don't think I need to say much, Council President, other than how vital the HHS levy is to our county and to those who need us most. I think we can all agree that you judge a society about how it treats those who need you most. And that's been the currency of this county government for all the years I've been a part and known about it. We take care of those who need us most, and we try to help empower citizens to do their best in their life trajectories. But when people need us, we're there. And we wouldn't be there without the support of the citizenry as it relates to the Health and Human Service levy. Overall, HHS represents 28% of our county service budget, and we take it seriously. It's a third of the business every day that we do, roughly. And we need you, we need our citizens to help us this upcoming levy cycle pass the HHS levy. So I'm here to introduce people you know well, but Walter Parfiowicz is going to present along with Director David Merriman. I just want you to know, I think you already know, this levy has my full support and that of our team, and on the off hours we'll be at work on the work of the levy. But we invite the citizens of Cuyahoga County to help us in the effort to sustain the safety net that keeps us going as it relates to HHS and its community, and especially those who need us most. You know, I think as council members inside and out, our HHS departments and what they do, from the very youngest to the very eldest in our community. And obviously we can provide a lot more information for any questions you have. But thank you for your ongoing work and partnership, and I hope your support on the HHS levy. Again, thanks.
Is the county executive there for questions or not?
If they're not the hard questions, I'm sure he can.
I appreciate the question about a confidence. What I would say, Councilman Tron, I'm available, but I do on detail want to make sure that you get exact details from the budget folks. So go ahead.
Yeah, these aren't budget questions as much as they are concept questions. When was the last time we failed to support a health and human service levy in the county?
Not in my memory do I remember participating on any levies, or in the 2 times that I've worked at the county, and I worked under Commissioners Campbell, Hagan, and worked with Peter Lawson Jones and McCormick. I don't remember us failing one. In the new era of county chartered government, I don't remember that either.
I can't remember one either. Is there some reason why this also couldn't go in November as opposed to March?
My goal, and I can only speak for myself, Councilman, is to move this in place with the potential that we could see a turn of events with voters. And if we were to, we usually try to safeguard against that by being early. I also, as I've said to this entire body, I want to give my full attention to this matter unfettered from now through March. So I guess, you guys can deliberate as a body when you want to put this on the ballot. I'll leave that as much to your deliberation, but I don't want to give any conjecture on it. I want to go for a March.
And the only reason I ask that is because obviously you have proposed a jail, a confinement facility. We've passed action to buy the land. We don't have action as far as how that source of funding to build it will take place. And as a result, if it goes before the voters, it would seem to me that March would be a better time to go before the voters for the building of that facility than it would be to wait till November of next year.
Yeah, and I leave that to your deliberation as a body. My goal is to get the HHS levy passed in March. And as it relates to our Central Services campus, I thank the body, as I did before, for your support for the site that we chose. And I respect the divergent opinions who weren't for that site. I respect you, and I don't think respectfully we should put anything before the HHS levy in March. But I leave it to your deliberation, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, may I? Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Executive, it's nice seeing you.
You too.
This is my first levy, being part of the council. I know how important it is. I always support it as a resident of Cuyahoga County. So tell me, do we use county dollars to support the efforts to convince the people of Cuyahoga County to continue this levy?
Councilman, no, we raise money outside of the belt for the purposes of the campaign. And when I say we, off hours with members of this community, businesses in this community, we appreciate all who give to the campaign, but it's outside of the use of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, no taxpayer dollars. Just, we're co-equal branches, right? That's what we always say. So it's basically just council president and the county executive working together with the council, trying to raise funds to move it forward. Would that be?
I'm
Without- we're not crossing any
going
lines
to
here.
give you my every effort, and I've had the pleasure of talking to council president about it and feel the same from you. And I know that we're going to rely on those of you who want to participate on the hours appropriate to work with us in the field to help continue to have a conversation with voters about the importance of this and work to come to a point where we pass the levy.
Yes, I look forward to working with my council president, raise some money and get this thing done. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Council President, members of council, and available for further question later.
All right,
Council President, for the record, Ms. Simon is in attendance.
thank you. Are we turning the floor over to, yes, Walter?
Good afternoon, council members. Walter Perfiowitz from the Fiscal Office, the Office of Budget Management. I'm going to present on the 4.8 mils Health and Human Service levy renewal, primarily though on the revenue side. When I'm done, David Merriman will come up and he'll talk about programs and services that the levy supports. I'm going to wait for the presentation to pop up. Okay, so we have two resolutions before you. Resolutions 2023-0293 and 294, both required by Ohio Revised Code to renew the existing 4.8 mils tax levy. Cuyahoga County has two Health and Human Services levies, a 4.8 mil, a 4.7 mil. The 4.8 that we're talking about is the larger of the two levies, expires in December of 2024. This levy generates approximately $137.4 million each year. There's no increase anticipated as a result of this renewal. It was last approved in May of 2016. This proposed replacement will extend the levy for 8 years with collections starting in January of 2025. So this slide, while small, details excuse me, details the two levies, which are estimated to generate $283.9 million collectively each year. It also details the subsidies that are projected to be paid in 2023, what's budgeted for calendar year 2024 and 2025, and what's projected to be paid in calendar years 26 and 27. You see the majority of the subsidies are going to the Department of Health and Human Services. Those are all prefaced with the HHS before it. Most of them are just the acronyms. There's also the Adams Board at $43 million and Metro Health at $32 million. Questions about what the levy is expected to generate? At this point, I'd like to turn it over to David to talk about the programs and the services.
Questions?
Will this raise any more money, whether it was raised voted in November versus March.
It will not.
So it's the same amount of money. There's no difference whatsoever. And as we heard from the county executive, none of us can actually recall it ever failing as far as the Health and Human Service levy.
Chair to Councilman Strawn, yes, you're correct.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Thank you. Good afternoon, David Merriman, Director of Health and Human Services for Cuyahoga County. I'd like to take a few minutes just to share how critical this levy is to our community. Overall, the funding that we receive from this levy generates the human services that residents in every community within Cuyahoga County count on. These are the most vulnerable residents of our community, but they're also the residents that we are trying to prevent from experiencing some of the social problems that plague our society. The levy generates significant federal revenue because of the ability to fund services at the county level and then submit for federal reimbursement through the state of Ohio. This is especially apparent in our child support division, child welfare, and job and family services programs for SNAP and Medicaid. The general fund is insufficient to cover the costs that would be necessary to draw these federal dollars to our community. And so the levy makes this revenue possible. The levy supports all of the programs of health and human services and many beyond health and human services. It stands before you, but this includes both protective services for children and seniors, but also prevention, because much of what we do is to address the needs of families before they need to be supported with protective services. We do early childhood education that is high quality, as well as youth development. That's also preventive. Our public assistance programs require local match, which I just spoke about, as does child support. I think we have one of the most effective fatherhood programs. It's entirely funded by the levy. We provide healthcare services that range from Metro Health's ability to have Life Flight, one of the best burn units in Ohio, and a series of critical care facilities, but also to the poison control hotline that's available for every county resident and is toll-free and provided without charge. We do alcohol and drug abuse treatment, mental health care, homeless services, reentry, and I could go on and on. But I think it's clear that this health and human service levy enables us to meet our obligation as a county to care for the needs of our residents. So let me just talk a little bit about how important this is to the children that are safe as a result of the work of the Division of Child and Family Services, or Children and Family Services. The social service worker threes that are going out 24/7, 365, knocking on doors are funded out of this levy. The elders that are counting on someone to check in on them when there is allegations of abuse or neglect, but also go to their local municipal program for a hot meal, for transportation, for socialization. They're counting on the levy as well. We significantly leverage our own dollars to provide this system. State funding is very limited. Our senior and adult service system is largely funded out of the Health and Human Service levy. Mental health services and addiction services are provided when out of the levy when federal dollars or state dollars are unavailable. Kinship care, where a child is placed with a family member and the family member has needs to care for that child, that is funded out of the levy. The state program that supports kin runs for the first 6 months of that placement and then ends. Our levy steps in and continues to care for those families. Most of our community's poverty prevention and response programs are supported by the levy, and I just want to use that as an example. Excuse the size of this slide. This is just a chart from Quick Facts on the census, and I think what I want to just point out is, that first column of numbers really shows that Cuyahoga County, unfortunately, has a lot of work to do as it relates to poverty, with 16% of persons in poverty compared to 15% for Hamilton County, 14% for Franklin County, and 13% for the state of Ohio. I think that is one of the great challenges of every generation, but this generation especially. As we've seen our economy take off for many, we've seen it not work out for others. And Center for Community Solutions reports persistent racial disparities within poverty in our community. And I believe we have an obligation to respond to that, and we need to prioritize it. And this levy enables us to draw significant state and federal resources that allow us to meet the needs of our residents. Let me talk a little bit about how we do that. The levy enables us to fund workforce programs for people that are on SNAP and TANF, and to have those programs connect to jobs. It also is used to fund the Ohio State University Extension that's in our community as a result of it. The levy funds permanent supportive housing, which places individuals that are chronically homeless in an apartment, giving them the stability that they need. Many of them go on to take full-time employment, never to return to the homeless shelter again. The levy is the main funding source for universal pre-kindergarten, which has been proven to break cycles of poverty for many families. It also addresses infant mortality rates that are really very concerning right now. There has been improvement. They continue to be present in our community, and I think robbing families of the precious opportunity to have their families grow. And lastly, I just want to point to the Office of Reentry funds its one-stop shop that provides a range of services to people that are coming out of the jail and prison, helping them break the cycle of recidivism, many of whom are also then brought into the workforce and are helping our economy grow. I want to close just on recognizing that the county has established searchable databases on our websites that really point to how we are using these dollars. All of that information is available. All of our meetings are live streamed where we make contracting decisions. And there's work with both the Inspector General and the Internal Audit Department on our uses of the levy. And within the Department of Health and Human Services, I feel we have the most robust and effective contract administration and performance department. It's not to say that it's perfect. When we've failed in the past, we've accepted accountability for that and made amends and are improving. And I think we still outperform other departments. We also have a division of performance evaluation and innovation that does reporting on our services, and we do contract monitoring for performance and are audited regularly by the state. And those audits are for both state and federal audits. I would like to go ahead and pause at this point and see if there's any questions for myself or Walter Parfiowicz.
Okay, thank you, Dave. And I'll take this moment to just go back and share with everyone. It appears the Health and Human Services levy of 1978 failed in the spring, and then it passed again in November. So that would be the justification for, we're just taking that shot first and giving yourself a cushion in the fall.
And an incident occurred once in a 50-year period of time.
All right. Any questions?
He does a great job.
Yeah.
Mr. Schran, your microphone.
Twice in your presentation, you mentioned, Director Merriman, the reentry services. And so if reentry services are part of a Health and Human Services support levy, what the county executive is advocating with the new campus concept of similar reentry services, then one could say, without too much of a stretch, because you've already mentioned it twice, that the director or the county executive's vision for the new facility down in Garfield is a form of a Health and Human Services issue that we're going to be addressing as we're training, developing, giving people a way of re-entering into society. And because you mentioned it twice, so it seems to me that it's only logical that that's also what he's being advocating for, is that for all intents and purposes, that has an element of Health and Human Service need too for all the 1,600 individuals that are down in our facility. If we're going to train them, get them a job, get them to transition back into, and hopefully avoid recidivism. I hope there's not too much of a stretch. I'm just repeating your own words used in a different facility, but within eyes of what your boss is suggesting that's going to be done in the new campus concept.
So if I can just respond, I, as the chair of the Reentry Leadership Coalition, I have a bias. I think every sector should be focused on reentry. I think it spans all of the sectors that serve our residents, whether it's health, whether it's employment, certainly human services. And what I can say, this is the work that we've adopted and we've taken on for many years. We've provided services in our county jail for many years, offering our inmates the opportunity to study and work towards their GED, exposing them to other workforce services. But I have to acknowledge that much of that work has stopped. And in many ways that was related to COVID, when there were the inability to have classes. But even with recovery, there has really been, I think, a lot of challenges to be able to get providers to come into the jail to offer GED services. We stand by with the county library. They're ready to do it. They're ready to come in. But unfortunately, the structure just doesn't allow for classes to occur the way that they should. And if someone is in jail for a period, for whatever reason, I mean, that's between them and the courts. I think if their time could be better used by working on a GED, addressing a workforce barrier, then that's good time spent. And unfortunately, I think the will is there. I think the facility and the operations at times have, especially with COVID, prevented us from meeting the needs of residents when, frankly, we've got an amazing partner in the county library standing by. And I just think, just the challenges of operations prevent us from taking full advantage of that opportunity.
My question was lacking clarity from my end then, because I agree with you 100%. And if we are going to, at some point, ask the voters to support the facility down in Garfield, I believe that also becomes a Health and Human Service ask when we ask them to put forth a campus concept down there. So I'm agreeing with you 100%. I'm just suggesting that the language of, if that measure does end up on the ballot to pay for that in Garfield Heights, that the arguments that you just raised are identical for that same thing. And I believe that we can, and I would have no problem in good faith looking somebody in the eyes and say, this is just as much a Health and Human Service issue that we're trying to do with the new Garfield facility as what we're talking about here. So I support you completely on that. Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, I will entertain at this time a motion to bring this item to the full council under second reading. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Resolution 2023-0294, determining to proceed with submitting to the electors of Cuyahoga County the question of renewing an existing 4.8 mil tax levy outside the 10 million limitation for the purpose of supplementing general fund appropriations for health and human or social services for 8 years in accordance with Section 5705.191 of the Ohio Revised Code.
David Merriman on behalf of the Department of Health and Human Services. I think the prior presentation was also intended to brief council on this matter as well. So I'm not sure, unless there's any other questions, I think that presentation stands.
All right. Again, no questions on this companion piece. Although I will
Mr. Chair,
entertain a
can I
motion.
have my name added?
Let's add Councilwoman Conwell's name.
Mr. Chairman, I'll
Councilman.
make a motion to refer to the full council for second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Mr. President,
Councilman Miller.
may I have my name added, please, to 293 and 294?
Let's add Councilman Miller's name,
As well as Turner.
as well as Councilwoman Turner.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. At this time, items referred to the committee, our confirmation hearing. All right. At this time, welcome to the confirmation hearing at which council will consider the reappointment of Michael Chambers as the county's fiscal officer following his recent retirement. Charter Section 5.02 provides that the fiscal officer is appointed by and serves at the pleasure of the county executive. The county fiscal officer is vested with the powers and duties established in state law for county auditors, county recorders, certain functions of the clerk of courts, as well as powers and duties established by council ordinance. This position is subject to confirmation by the council as an appointed officer under the charter. The hearing process will proceed as follows. The nominee will be offered an opportunity to address his qualifications, motivations for seeking the position, and outlooks and plans regarding the office. Council members will then be offered the opportunity to ask questions of the nominee. For the sake of time and to allow the opportunity for everyone to ask questions, I'd ask members to limit themselves to 2 questions. Time permitting, additional questions may be asked once everyone has had an opportunity. Once all questions have been asked, we will entertain a motion to recommend that council approve or reject the nomination for second reading at tonight's council meeting and consideration for third reading at the November 28th council meeting. At this time, Madam Clerk, if you would read the resolution into the record.
Resolution 2023-0304, confirming the county executive's appointment of Michael W. Chambers upon his taking the oath of office as county fiscal officer.
All right. At this time, Mr. Chambers, you can address the council.
Thank you, Council President. I have a short statement I'll read, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions after that. I stand before you once again asking for your support as we continue our relationship and the mission that we started 4 years ago. During the last 4 years, we've accomplished many things. First on the list was the ERP. When I started as interim in 2019, the go-live date was just 3 months away from my first day on the job. From day one, I dedicated my time and my past experience in moving this project forward. Rather than fight with IT for the project control, I partnered with them to find the best path forward. This was far from a perfect project, as we know, but rather than look for blame, I looked at options. In the end, we did get it done, and we've worked very hard since to bring it where we are today. All of this was accomplished as staff was leaving the fiscal department. Over 80% of my fiscal team, 32 out of 40 people, left during this time. These were the designers of the project. That did not stop us from getting the project implemented. It was the next woman and the next man up. And believe me, a lot of great women stepped up and helped me. Then we had COVID. Once again, we worked together and we made a difference in Cuyahoga County. We accepted the federal funds in the amount of $215 million. We kept critical departments open to the public and provided life-saving PPE and supplies to our residents. We implemented the expedited purchasing process, which enabled us to meet the challenge, and I believe we saved lives because of that. During this time, the appraisal team was in the middle of a triennial update. This was a mandatory 3-year evaluation update. We completed this major undertaking, and then we went out into the community and we met with the taxpayers where over 2,000 people attended 12 different locations throughout the county. Next, we accepted $239 million in ARPA funds, and we invested these funds back into our communities and various initiatives. We completed several bond deals, including Progressive Field, the Huntington Convention Center. We took the opportunity to refund several outstanding bond series totaling $304 million that ultimately saved the county $57 million. We maintained a strong bond rating for our county during this unprecedented time. We completed the annual audit on time, the first time since 2016. We had bank accounts that had been unreconciled for over a year. These are now current and reconciled within 1 week of closing each month. We had a bank-to-book discrepancy of over $2.29 million that was on our books for over 10 years. We cleared it. We upgraded the real property system, the hotel-motel system, and the recorder system. We are currently in the process of updating the board revision software. We have been through much together, and we still have a lot more to go. In closing, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the team that stood by me side by side over the last few years. Without them and their dedication, without their hard work, some who actually were temporary employees at the county who I eventually hired, I would not be here today. So thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
All right. Any questions from the council? Councilman Miller.
Mr. President, Director, We're within a month and a half or so of the beginning of tax collection for the next round. Where are we in the process of cleaning up the processing problems that made it difficult for a lot of taxpayers in the last couple of rounds?
Yeah, to the chair, to Councilman Miller, we did talk about that, and right now, we're working with the state to get our tax abstract approved. Generally, the state has until right around that first week of December, which is the 5th or 6th, give or take. We can't do anything until we get that approval back. So what we have done in order to kind of combat that is one of the changes we made was to permanently extend the end date by 2 weeks of the tax collection. We kept locking ourselves into this mandatory 20-day period, but like we said in the past, certain things would happen. The state wouldn't get it to us in time for approval. So now we've guaranteed ourselves by giving ourselves an extra couple of weeks' time. So we're knee-deep in it right now, is what I'm saying.
So, Director, where are we in the process of upgrading our own systems so that that people get good information online and they get payments confirmed when they're made and rejected when they're not made, and so that people know what they're dealing with?
So we upgraded our real property system, and that, this will be the first time we use it to, calculate the bills and everything. We have tested it. We're in good place on that. Some of the issues we had, and I'm hoping our banking contract, which we're going through right now, will resolve. Some of the online payments where people had trouble. They had duplicated payments, or a payment went through and it didn't go through. I'm working with the new treasurer, and, he's aware of this, and he's familiar with the same service that he had in Portage to try and find a solution to make it better.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions? Okay. Nope, no questions.
Is this, Mr. Chair, is this on the confirmation?
Yes, on the
Totally.
confirmation.
Okay. I just need some clarity, Mr. Chambers, in terms of, because I'm not really clear. So this is confirmation for you to be reappointed
Correct.
as the fiscal chair, and currently, what's your status now?
Interim fiscal officer.
Okay. Well, I thought you were the chair, I thought you were confirmed before.
I was, Councilwoman. I retired.
Okay. So you retired in that interim? I mean, I've heard different things about it.
Well, the truth be told,
I just
had-
want to be clear.
Just so you're aware, I had over 33 years of active service. I've been with the county for over 40 years. I started as a summer intern working for the county treasurer, and I ended up being the CFO of this great county. So off and on for over 40 years, I've been here. So after further and a lot of conversation with my wife, I decided to retire. And I was very fortunate that the executive asked me to stay, which brings us to where we are today.
And what was the time span in that, a month, from when you retired to reaccepting the offer?
I'm not sure the exact timeline, but soon. I mean, there was a discussion of me going, and then there was an opportunity for me to stay, and I accepted it.
I don't have any problem with your work and what you've done and brought the county over the years or during the tenure that we've worked together.
Thank you.
I'm at I can only talk about me, feel a little uncomfortable in terms of the rehire, right? So I have made my suggestion to the council president. I don't know how my colleagues feel in terms of council taking no action. So I just wanted you to know from me how I feel about the situation. It has nothing to do in terms of your capability to do this job.
I mean, I respect your opinion, and there's no doubt. I mean, it's no secret there's a lack of public talent. I mean, it's all over our GFOA that there's not enough people coming into government finance. We're a dying breed. It's not just this area, but there's a lot of areas that are suffering. So I respect you and thank you for telling me.
You're welcome, sir. And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any further comments or questions?
I do, Mr. President.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. Michael, I want to thank you, applaud you for all your hard effort. I'm glad you and your wife decided to retire. And I'm even more glad that when the county executive asked you to come back, you said yes. So I'm fully supportive of this. I'd like it voted on now, and I'd like to have you continue doing the MVP of all the directors. You're humble, you're just trying to get your work done, and that's what I like about it. You're just focused on doing your job without any flashiness. So that's my 2 cents, and I'm going to be more than happy to move you forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further comments or questions? Councilwoman?
Thank you, through the chair. I'm just wondering, this is also my first budget process, Councilman Sweeney, so I've been learning a lot. I was just wondering what the financial implications are of you retiring and then coming back on full-time.
For me, was a 10% cut in pay. I mean, that was my, yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for doing that. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Councilman?
Mike, you're a great guy. ERP, my blood pressure was so good.
I didn't say it was perfect.
I'm just kidding you. I just had to say that. Thanks.
Any further questions or comments?
No, I'd like to move approval to move them forward.
I'll second it.
Properly moved and seconded. Further discussion?
Council President?
Yes.
Clarification on who seconded, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Properly moved and seconded. At this time, we will take a roll call vote.
Calling the roll, Ms. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Conwell, Ms. Stevens is absent. Ms. Simon? Ms. Simon is away. Mr. Kelly? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Tuma?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
I'm going to vote yes, and not your issue, but we need a policy. And I understand they're working on a policy, so we just need a policy. Yes.
Mr. Schron?
I agree with Mr. Gallagher. This is a policy issue, and I abstain.
Council President Jones?
And I will be a yes vote as well.
I was going to say, just a question to the law director through the president.
Yes, you have a question?
I think he's,
it out.
Mr. Law Director? Are council people allowed to abstain without a conflict?
I'm sorry, through the council president to councilman, that's what we were just looking up. The three of us, I guess, simultaneously.
I'm curious about it, because I've never,
You need to be
outside of a
conflicted out,
conflict of
man.
interest.
Get
So-
away.
And we were looking that up as you were forming your question. So the answer is in Rule 10A of the council rules, which state that every member present shall vote on every question in council or in committee unless the member has recused him or herself except that a member may abstain from voting on questions relating to the minutes of a meeting at which the member was present. And then this is the key sentence. A member shall recuse him or herself from voting whenever the member has a personal or monetary interest in any manner under consideration or believes that voting on the matter could, for any reason, constitute a violation of state or county ethics law.
All right, I thank you.
My question would be, would this be violate,
So-
Mr. Chair?
Law Director, the question is translate. Question is, can they recuse or can they abstain?
My answer to the question as to whether it would violate a state or county ethics law is no. And so, so my judgment would be that the members should not recuse themselves from voting unless there is some sort of a personal or monetary interest that would constitute a violation of state or county ethics law, and I don't see that.
So it sounds like we need to start over, or let me ask this, another viable, hearing the concerns of all of our colleagues, how they voted, how they feel, what is the possibility, as Councilwoman Conwell brought up earlier, of just taking a no-action vote? Are we able to do that, or have we moved in the process in such a way? What are our options?
As I heard it, there were 6 votes to move this forward, and there were 4 abstentions, I think, is what I heard. So 6 votes in favor, or 3 or 4 abstentions. And I would say that it's up to the presiding officer to determine whether to move it forward on that basis. If you're asking for my judgment as to whether council members ought to, under their own rules, vote, my answer would be yes. But can the president decide to move this forward on the basis that there is a majority in assent with moving this forward? I would say yes.
Mr. President?
Well, I don't like the idea necessarily of force my colleagues to have to.
Mr.
They
President?
said how I have the floor.
I'm just trying to get
I
recognized.
have the floor.
Okay, I'll wait.
I don't like the idea of actually having to force our colleagues to they kind of express their concerns right now. Is it possible to just move forward with the no action?
I don't see how a council member can vote no action. The main motion is the motion to move it forward to council. That's what's on the table, and so it's yes or no or recusal. And my judgment is that there is no violation of the state or county ethics laws that would permit a recusal. And so again, this is not the Ohio Revised Code. It's not the United States Constitution. These are the council rules that council has determined govern its actions. And so then it is up to, in my judgment, the council president to either enforce those rules or not. And in this case, there are 6 votes yes and 3 to 4 recusals. The council president could, you asked for options, the council president could call the roll again and have those who abstained or recused themselves force them to vote. You have that option, and taking that option would be fully consistent with the council rules. That is an option. If the council president chooses not to enforce the rule that every council person ought to take a vote, yes or no, on the main motion, in my judgment, that's the council president's prerogative, and the question then can go to the question of the confirmation can then go to the full council, and I guess I would look to my colleagues for their consensus on this judgment. Permit me one moment, please.
Mr. President, from what I understand the law director saying, is that you have 2 choices. That we can those that abstained is clearly wrong, first, based on our council rules, so you'll have to either call the vote again or take no action. And I don't know at
He
this
didn't say no
point.
action. I have
Right,
the option
right.
to allow it abstain, or to require everyone to cast a vote. But I'm going to give them a moment to finish their conferring.
And just know I'm waiting to be recognized, Mr. President.
And then we have Sunny in that wasn't here before. So, I mean,
Yes. Yeah, you have a question? Go right ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. It has to do with them. I'm going to ask the law director. It was properly moved. It was seconded. We had a vote. It was 6 votes for yes, 3 or 4 abstentions. And now we got in this kind of mess. Then we found out people can't excuse themselves or vote an abstention, so. But we're following the council rules. And I really want to stay with that. And it was moved properly, seconded, we called a vote, it was 6-3, so that concludes. I don't want to, there's an open vote right now. And if it has to be changed because of some irregularities with the vote process violating our council rules, it needs to be called again. And Councilwoman Sunny Simon was not here, but if we get to do it again, she's here now and she'll be able to participate, right? You weren't, I'm just trying to.
Correct.
Well, yeah, so that's all I'm trying. I want you to be part of it.
And then I have questions.
Yeah.
Mr. President?
Councilman, I think Tuma had a question first, and then Councilman Miller.
I'll defer to.
You will
Just a
defer?
comment that that the result of the vote has not been announced yet, and so the vote is still open. So I think that Councilwoman Simon can be called and vote regardless of.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And so, Council
finished?
President, if I may rejoin the conversation, the ruling on the field stands as called. I would continue to advise that that those are the 2 options at the discretion of the presiding officer, you, to announce, to permit others to vote or change their votes, and then announce the vote, or to do another roll call. And require those under the council rules to vote yes or no. Those are the 2 options as stated before.
So let me give that back to you. My 2 options. I can permit the vote to stand with their abstentions and allow it to stand, or I can go, is that one of the options?
To permit the vote to stand and
these
just
abstentions-
announce the results and permit Councilwoman Simon to vote, because as Councilman Miller said, the vote has not been announced, and votes can be changed, added until the time that the vote is announced.
So you're saying that is clearly one of my legal options?
That's correct.
The other option is to require all of my colleagues to cast a vote, not allow them to abstain, but to cast a vote.
Consistent with council rules, that is correct.
Are you okay with? You are the abstentions. All right.
Councilmember Conwell?
What is going on?
Councilmember Conwell?
This is chaos.
Hi, Councilmember Conwell, your microphone wasn't on, so.
All right, so what we will do is we will vote again and allow every colleague to vote without abstaining. Without abstaining. You will cast your vote.
Mr. President.
And we still have a discussion. Go right ahead.
I'm just wondering, and listening to some of my colleagues, I think the concern isn't Mr. Chambers, the concern is the lack of policy. That we're going into waters we haven't really gone into before. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be wise to allow Councilwoman Simon to ask her questions. And if I'm reading the room correctly, I think that's the concern. If that is the concern, wouldn't it be wise to maybe kick this for a week and come back with a policy in place where we can, and we always have, as far as I can remember, stayed consistent as far as voting unanimously for picks of the executive, other than, I believe, 2 times, and those were unusual circumstances. So would that be an option for us to at least have that policy in place? And I'm reading, I think that's some concern with my colleagues that were on the fence with the abstentions. So I think that gets us, it takes us another week with Mr. Chambers, unfortunately, as interim. Is there a time thing with that? My concern is, you want to roll the dice?
Love these people, no problem, let's do it.
I mean, you can plug it into the ERP and see what it spits out.
The council president wants to do, I'm fine with it, that's fine.
Is that, you didn't even smile on that one.
Oh,
Everything-
come on.
I leave it to the president.
Your microphone. Okay.
I have questions, so when the council president decides how to proceed, there's time now for me to ask questions, just let me know.
And we are still in that moment, so you can ask, we've heard Councilman Gallagher.
Okay.
But you feel free to ask your question.
So these are questions of the administration, so is somebody here to answer questions from the administration? Which is along the lines of Councilman Gallagher's references about a county policy regarding retire, rehire. Do we have a policy with that?
Katie Gallagher, the Executive Office. I just want to check with the Law Department. The Law Director had indicated there might be a notice issue. I just don't want to get anybody in trouble. Are you fine if I talk about policy?
Yes, you can
Okay.
talk about policy, and
Sure.
I'm not aware of a notice issue.
Okay. So we do have a draft policy. I have shared that draft policy with the PRC. Rebecca was going to meet with her team at their biweekly meeting and go over that policy just to give some preliminary feedback. And once, I was supposed to touch base with her last night, but I didn't have a chance. So I, in order to like bypass some of the questions that they may have, I wanted to work collectively with her. And so I'll get that feedback from her. Once I have that feedback from the PRC, that will be shared as an introduction and get some feedback with Councilwoman Turner and Councilman Miller, who attend our HR committee meetings. So we do have a draft policy. My one concern is it does take about a month and a half to go through the process, so it will not be a passed policy. You'll see it in draft form. So that is my only concern with moving forward with this concept of having a policy. It will only be draft until you guys pass it officially.
Councilman Kelly?
I'm not done.
Oh, go right ahead.
Is this, do you want me to stop and allow other questions? I mean, I have a few
Go right ahead.
questions.
Two questions at a time.
Okay, well, this one, I'm concerned about this job being posted or not posted. Was this job posted?
This job was not posted based upon the history of looking at this. We've had several jobs not posted in the county, not under this administration per se, but in the past, Department of Consumer Affairs, the HR director for Douglas Dykes, for Cheryl Harris, for Dennis Kennedy, for Nayla Bird, for Chris Murray. At no point were those jobs particularly posted. So it's this, we are not creating a precedent.
Okay, so
with
the
this
answer is
decision.
no posting, and the basis upon which that decision was made is because of past practices of a former administration. Is that the answer?
No, the answer is it's happened before. However, the decision was because the executive already agreed to rehire Mr. Chambers. Since that decision was made, there was no point to post the job. We would just be doing it to do it.
I'm going to conclude with we do have a policy that says we should be posting, and that brings in the whole issue of equity of hiring. But go ahead, I'm done with the two questions. Thank you, Director
Councilman
Gallagher.
Kelly and then Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So my concern was what Mr. Gallagher brought up about the lack of policy.
Councilman Kelly, your microphone, please.
It's on.
A little bit louder.
So I have no problem going forward with the vote.
Councilman, Sharon?
I think it's pretty clear that the administration recognized that this vote is premature. There's a policy that's being worked on, that's being proposed and going to be put in place, and a need for that to take place, and that this body should consider all of those matters when we're reviewing a position of this nature. It's always hard to separate the individual from the policy. And so I think it behooves this body to do everything you can to move from the personality of the individual to the need for good governance of this body. And without that policy in place, I think any vote was premature. And so I'm prepared to vote, again, if need be, in regards to it. But I also think that it would behoove us to go through the process of having a policy on board. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilman.
I agree with Councilman Tron. I think there needs to be a policy, so we're going to be uniform across the county how we handle this, retire, rehire. I mean, this is ad hoc. Moving isn't, I think, in the interest of the county on an ad hoc basis, deciding who's worthy to retire and come back, but others who might request it get denied. There has to be uniformity. I think we need to get that policy.
If we were to wait on the policy at what we just heard, the person would fill the space by rule of law. Am I correct? No action while we're waiting on policy. What is that time frame when, if we have not made a yes or no decision, the space is already filled, he becomes the director?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question as it relates to the rule of law? I didn't
We are
understand.
confirming a director. If we do not vote yes or no within a certain period of time, he automatically he assumes this position.
That is incorrect.
Correct, thank you.
That's not correct, yes. Extending the interim appointment beyond 120 days, I believe that's in the charter, would require council action.
Thank you for that clarification.
I'm a little confused, Mr. Chair, because I thought you just asked if we took no action, then he would automatically assume after 60 days into that role.
Law Director, give us clarity on no action.
And that's not what it states here.
Right, and you're reading the documents. Give them a moment to confer.
We got 6 votes.
Council President, permit me a moment.
Sure, take your time.
Council President?
Ready.
We have conferred on this question of first impression for me. 2 different charter issues are here. One relates to going on with an interim appointment beyond 120 days and whether council needs to act on that. That is in the charter 2.032, second paragraph. There is another provision of the charter that I believe council members have been referring to relating to a 60-day requirement to act. And that charter provision is 2.03 to second. I'm sorry, the first paragraph, and that says, if the council shall fail to act on the question of such an appointment by the county executive within 60 days of the date that the county executive submits such appointment to the council for its consideration, and that has been interpreted as the first reading on the resolution to confirm. That appointment shall be deemed confirmed without further action by the council. I believe that was the 60-day provision that you were referring to, not the 120-day provision, and council's the necessity of council acting on an appointment if the interim appointment exceeds 120 days. Two provisions. I wasn't sure what you were asking, but hopefully that clarifies.
So the clarity, I was correct or I was wrong. I was going to say it. It'd be all right. Was I correct or was I incorrect?
What that means then, I guess as a practical matter, is given that the resolution was submitted to council for its October 24th meeting, the council is required to act by that provision that I just read from the charter within 60 days of that meeting to confirm or reject the appointment, and that 60-day date is December 23. December 23 is 60 days after October 24, and if council takes no action within that 60 days, the appointment is automatically confirmed by operation of law.
Okay.
I just have a question, the law director. What other provision were you referencing then with the 6 months, or I don't understand. So these appointments were for boards or commissions. We know that that will lapse and it's automatic. But there's another provision you were talking about that has to do with.
About the, that provision was an interim appointment. This is 2.032. Second paragraph, an interim appointment may continue beyond 120 days by extension or reappointment, or another person may be successively appointed to the same position on an interim basis only if confirmed by council prior to the expiration of the initial interim appointment. So right now, the appointment does not exceed 120 days.
This applies. The latter applies. No?
No.
Are there any further questions?
And just for clarification, what I just read refers to the extension of interim appointments. And we're talking here not about the extension of an interim appointment, but rather the confirmation for a permanent post, not an interim post. And so the 60-day rule would apply. And the 120-day rule would apply to an extension of an interim term.
All right. Are there any further questions?
Yeah, that's correct.
If not, if there are no further questions, we're going to vote. Okay, we're going to vote. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Help us procedurally. How do we move forward? Do we need to clean up anything, or can we simply vote?
There has been a motion, and there has been a second. There has been discussion. There's been a roll call vote, but no announcement of the results of that vote. And so my judgment would be that becomes part of the discussion, and you can call the vote at this time on a roll call basis.
All right.
Mr. President, what's the motion that was seconded? What's our motion? What's the motion on the
Martin
table?
J. Sweeney motioned to move this forward, and Mr. Tuma seconded it, and we had discussion.
To have this
second reading.
appointment proceed?
Proceed,
Okay.
Council,
Then lengthy discussion. So we are still in the midst of that. So now we will have, at this time, we can have a roll call vote.
Correct.
Ms. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Conwell? Ms. Stevens is absent. Ms. Simon?
No, because there's no policy.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Absolutely.
Mr. Tuma?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Mr. Schron?
No, on the same basis, no policy.
Council President Jones?
Yes.
We have a motion carrying, 7 votes in the affirmative, 3 voting no. Again, the motion carries.
Right.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank
All right, this time we will prepare for executive session.
Everyone's talking.
Under that law, council may go into executive session during a meeting for specifically authorized purposes. During executive session, council confers outside of the hearing of the public. Council may not make any decisions about any matters in executive session. All decisions are made in public. This afternoon, the council will go into executive session for the purpose of discussing pending or imminent court action. During this time, our live stream will be down, and we ask all those not specifically needed for the executive session to remain in council chambers. Council members will convene in the adjacent Committee Room A and will re-enter the meeting once the executive session is ended. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing pending or imminent court action?
So moved, Mr. President.
Okay, I'll be the second.
Probably
Simon?
moved and seconded. Will the clerk call the roll on the motion to go into executive session?
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell? Ms. Stevens is absent. Ms. Simon? Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Tuma?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Mr. Schron? Council President Jones?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, the ayes have it. We will adjourn the meeting for executive.
Oh, he was mad. He couldn't prove that she was lying. That's true. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, I was trying to find my.
That item for the fair, here.
I have not had lunch.
I mean, Cynthia?
Thank
So I just said a few.
Doing. Cynthia?
All right, we are reconvening the council meeting, and we are now back on the record. Is there any miscellaneous business? If not, our meeting is adjourned. We will reconvene at 5 p.m.